The similar letters sent to the west.
T797.
There was this discrepancy between what went to the east and to the west. Now document 202, a letter from the accused from the 7th of April 1943 to von Taden. In connection with the emigration of a Jewish family of Dutch nationality, Kaufmann, they wanted to emigrate to Sweden. The accused says that in accordance with instructions from the Reichsführer and chief of the German police, there is now discussion of the emigration of citizens of neutral countries only when there is a vital interest of the Reich involved.
T748. I come now to document 107, which was put to the accused and marked T37 brackets 187. The accused comments on this document in his statement, page 2299 and sequence. And this too is the treatment of Jews of foreign nationality, an attempt to reach a final solution of all this problem, and in accordance with the present situation of the final solution of the Jewish problem in the Reich. There are in the Reich on that date mixed marriages with Germans, a number, and also a number of Jews of foreign nationality. Later, to reach a final solution, then they should refer to the governments concerned for the return of those Jews. At the end of this document, Eichmann says that in order to accelerate the final solution, there should be no reservations, since the Reich applied and showed these foreign governments a certain readiness on his part. Now our document 1060, a letter by Grundschiff from the office of the accused, dealing with Jewish property, an individual by the name of Frank, from Mainfranken. And this is in regard to a forfeiture in accordance with the rule.
It will be Exhibit T780.
Our document 906 is a letter from von Taden to the accused of the 10th of July, 43. Here we find again the matter of the term, the last day fixed for foreign governments to settle the problem, and it is laid down here a final date, the 31st of July, 43.
Judge Landau, this is Exhibit T781.
I come now to document 536, and this is what is called a preface. These are notes, usually typewritten, of large characters, which were supposed to be prepared by the Undersecretary of State, and usually this typewriter was used when the propositions were to be brought before the Reichsminister himself. I wish to call attention of the court to what is said on page 3. The document was prepared on the 12th of July, 43, and here Wagner reports to the notice of the Foreign Minister what were the steps taken by the Foreign Ministry to press and to bring pressure on foreign governments to return their Jews, those who remained in the Reich territory.
Exhibit T782.
I come now to document 1287. This is a final and summarizing report of the Gestapo office in Würzburg, dated the 6th of August 43, in regard to transport of 2,093 Jews from the Mainz-Franken area sent east from Würzburg as from November 41 until June 43. And here, details of 7 transports, 5 4 to the east and 3 to Theresienstadt.
Exhibit T783.
537 now. Was shown to the accused and marked T37 brackets 186. The accused comments on this document on pages 2 to 901 sequence. The document is signed by Miller and is sent by 4B4 office in September 43. The date is important because the court heard yesterday a witness, a woman who was taken from Westerburg to Ravensbrück. On page 4, we find that because of foreign policy, it is not possible to deport those Jews at the moment of the 10 Western countries to the east. It is planned to keep them, those above the age of 14 at the Buchenwald concentration camp, and the women and children at the Ravensbrück concentration camp. 3 months later, Miss Salzberger was at Ravensbrück camp. And from her testimony before the court, we find that this corroborates the first part of this document.
T784.
It is said that for the transfer to the concentration camp, there is no need for a warrant of arrest. But the commander of that camp must be informed that this is within the framework of the transportations.
As I said, T784.
I come now to document 538. This is in fact only part of a document proving that the document was sent on to the Foreign Ministry for notice and was received by the Foreign Ministry on the 5th of October 43.
What do you wish to prove by means of this document?
The document itself is signed by Miller. The sending on to the Foreign Office is signed by the accused's office.
Well, what then? Perhaps you could tell us at this point why you are submitting this.
We intend, Your Honors, to show that, in general, the one who signs the letter is according to the rank of the correspondence. We see that the initiator of the letter is not always reflected in the signature.
Exhibit T785.
And another document, 539. of the 12th October 43, and instructions are being sent by von Tadden to embassies and legations in Europe as listed on this document.
Judge Landau, here again, it's not quite clear to me what the purpose is. What do you want to prove with this document?
We must prove to the court how special operations were organized at Bergen-Belsen, Buchenwald, Ravensbrück. They were not concerned with prisoners, but these are special prisoners taken into concentration camps, whatever the camps were called, by special orders from the accused.
Judge Landau, but here we don't even know what they are dealing with in this letter.
We find here in a slanting handwriting. I have submitted this document. This was our document 537. This is 784. I have just submitted this document.
Judge Landau, you want to show, sir, how this was concentrated by the office of the accused?
Yes, that's it, correct.
This then is exhibit T786.
I now come to 547. A letter written by von Tadden of the 2nd of March 44 informing the accused that in accordance with an information received from a legation, 2 Jewish secretaries do not appear for work as from the 25th of February. It seems because they were arrested and sent, and the legation requests the return of those 2 Jewish women. I wish to draw attention to the remark, and it says, in Land 2a, Levin and Hammerschmidt, the Jewesses,
und defaitistischen Schriften verhaftet worden sein sollen.
This is being sent for the notice of Eichmann, Obersturmbannführer. The remark from a verbal information from the office for before, it has been revealed that Levin and Hammerschmidt, 2 Jewish women, were arrested, as it seems, because they took part in distributing illegal matter and also subversive and defeatist material. Now a letter by Krishad from the accused's office to von Tadden in the Foreign Ministry of the 5th September 44. The subject is the Jew Heinz Levin. The Jew Levin was formerly a German citizen and in accordance with the laws became stateless. And when he was arrested, that was because he used forged papers and did not bear the mark of a Jew, although he was stateless. Therefore, as a Jew, he was sent to the east. We do not know his whereabouts now. Regarding the papers issued to him by the Salvador government, this was done only out of courtesy.
Exhibit T788.
And now, by permission of court, before I conclude the documents in relation to Germany, I wish to submit an affidavit, document 455, made by Rudolf Emil Brandt. I wish to add that if the counsel for the defense does not have the document before him, I would defer the submission of this document until he can read it through. I don't know if he has it here before him, but he certainly has it in his office, and I'm ready to postpone the submission of this document.
Mir war aber nicht bekannt, dass sie heute vorgelegt werden sollte. Ich wäre dankbar, wenn es in der nächsten Sitzung vorgebracht würde.
Dr. Servatius, I may have the document in my files. I did not know it was about to be submitted today. I would appreciate if this were postponed to the next session.
By permission of court, I come now to a list of documents dealing with the setting up and the running of the Bergen-Belsen camp. The first document I wish to submit is 1592. This is notes made by von Taden, a final note of the 12th of June 43. These notes are interesting because they come from a colleague of the accused, a man by the name of Kröning from the security police office. And Kröning, in a very confidential manner, proposes to von Taden how the security police officers wish to set up this camp for 30,000 Jews, which must be kept for the purpose of exchange in return for German citizens. May I, by permission of the court, quote only two passages of this interesting document. He says that a man, a confidential report, says von Taden,
Judge Landau, perhaps you could quote this in the Hebrew translation, Mr. Bar-Or, as far as possible. Mr. Bar-Or, I think the German words are here interesting.
He has been told that these Jews, which are to be deported to that camp, will not be dealt with too severely until they sort of, but later, after the plan of employing them and making them work in that camp, it seems to him that at least they would be treated quite severely. Von Taden concludes that the source of these information he asks to be kept quite confidential.
Judge Halevi, do you know who Kröning is?
We know Kröning from the list of those in the security police, but he is of the higher ranks. He was in fact in charge of the security police and was interested in those Jews, because this deals with foreign Jews and their entry into the camp, not Reich Jews.
Judge Halevi, but what is the connection here with the accused?
There is no direct contact with the accused. The interesting part is that this querying does not refer to the accused, but goes secretly to von Taden and tells him this confidentially, draws his attention to the plans which originated from the Foreign Office, not from the accused's office.
Exhibit T789. This
I
is.
come now to document 1418.
On the 12th of August 1943, von Taden from the Foreign Ministry gives Eichmann a report about his visit at Bergen-Belsen. Bergen-Belsen, as he says here, the site was not chosen by the Foreign Ministry, it was selected by the police. But the plan was initiated by the Foreign Ministry. And he says, among other things, that the Foreign Ministry wants to keep a large number of Jews in one camp for possible exchange against the Germans who are in hostile countries. And first of all, there should be selected such Jews who have special connections abroad, and their hostile countries might have special interest in exchanging them. For organizing those Jews, the RHSA has proposed the Bergen-Belsen camp. A visit at this camp has yielded the following results, and here von Taden briefly gives his impressions. He says capacity of the camp in its present structure is 3,000 approximately, and so on and so forth. Then he says, I read one passage, that one cannot prevent a situation where the Jews would learn about the fact, as the commander said this, there are prisoners of war, Russian prisoners of war there also, and they knew that out of 18,000 Jews, 17,000 have died. Under the present conditions, this gives the Jews material for atrocity propaganda abroad. Even from his point of view, the concentration camp should be evacuated, or at least the excess inmates should be taken from this camp. It was also remarked that the commander of the camp and SS Hauptsturmführer Seidel as well, we know him from Theresienstadt, was in charge of the group of Jews in that camp. They realized the great drawbacks and disadvantages of this camp and are trying to apply all measures at their disposal.
T790.
Now 550. Again a memorandum a memo really by von Taden, designed for Weizsäcker. In the Foreign Ministry, he is his superior. He speaks about a news conference. It was proposed that representatives of the Red Cross should visit Theresienstadt to ascertain that all arrangements...
Judge Halevi.
Judge Landau.
I speak of Bergen-Belsen. President of Court, does this belong to the same series of documents?
Sir, this document is from the 7th of October 1944. At that time, this was a few months after the first visit by the Red Cross in Theresienstadt. That was in June 1944. At the end of this document, they speak about a similar visit to Bergen-Belsen, and they want to submit the matter to Weizsäcker to ask whether the Foreign Ministry had a special interest in such a visit at Bergen-Belsen. And here attention is drawn to the fact that in these two cases there will apparently be weighty considerations, weighty counter-arguments by the head office of Reich Security for such visits.
T791.
And now 766, our number.
Judge Halevi, who signed the last document?
Mr. Baror, we see on top of the document Legation Council of First Grade von Taden, Special Expert.
Judge Halevi, the document speaks about someone who visited Bergen-Belsen and compared conditions with Theresienstadt.
Yes, sir, I knew of that, of course. A few moments ago, I submitted the results of a telephone conversation between von Taden and Eichmann, where von Taden spoke about the results of his visit at Bergen-Belsen. Yes, that is the document. Von Taden knew very well what was happening at Bergen-Belsen. Now, 766. That too is a memo designed for the foreign minister, drafted by von Taden. The date is 12th of October. The subject is an application by Herr von Otter on behalf of the Swedish representation in Germany to try and obtain exit permits for somebody from Sweden who had Swedish nationality. I should like to draw attention to the last two passages on page 4 of the document. He says the RSHA, as the authorized expert tells me, this office refuses to enter into any argument about these cases because by instructions from the Reichsführer SS, Jews who were once taken to a ghetto can no longer ever be released.
T792.
Our document 688 also pertains to this. The subject is also, among other things, the Bergen-Belsen camp. It's a letter by the accused from the 18th of January 1945 to von Taden. May I say in parenthesis, this is the document which has the latest date which we find signed by the accused. 45 it is. It was after he had come back in December 44 from Hungary. The subject here is a Jew who had been sent to Bergen-Belsen, Polonsky, from Salonika, from Greece, and his ashes were buried in Bergen-Belsen. Apparently, the authorities who have custody, who are protecting this man, applied to von Taden and through him to Eichmann to see what happened to this Jew. And it said that his inheritance was given to his sons who are in Bergen-Belsen, and here is the death certificate. And Eichmann proposes that the vice-consul, the Greek vice-consul, be given appropriate notification of this.
T793.
Now, what the conditions of the camp of Bergen-Belsen were right after liberation by the Allied powers, this we shall hear from a witness whom I shall bring here at a later time. And I, with your permission, I would now like to go over to the chapter on With permission of your honors, I first would like to submit the second regulation of German citizenship in the Austrian area, 30th of June 1939, our document 1610. The significance of this regulation, signed by the Minister of the Interior, Frick, is actually that all measures then in force in Germany will automatically now apply to Jews resident in Austria.
T794.
Your honors know from our previous evidence the memoranda of Dr. Löwenherz, where they had to go to the central office of the emigration and they had the copies of these memoranda. I should like to submit some of these memoranda to the extent that they pertain to our period.
President of Court, did you not submit these documents before?
I think you will receive the report of Dr. Löwenherz, but I don't think the court has received all of these memoranda, all of these. They are separate documents here. 1136, signed by Dr. Löwenherz, a memorandum on his conversation with Brunner, that SS Commissar who was ultimately transferred to be in charge of the Central Office of Jewish Immigration in Vienna until all Jews had been deported from there. This memorandum is from October 1939. They refer here to the accused in connection with instructions that Jews who were in special training camps, 500 to 600 people, were to be sent to Palestine, and the remaining ones should be attached to transports going to Poland. The next memorandum,
T795.
the next one is 1137, also signed by Dr. Löwenherz, a memorandum about Löwenherz's visit in the office of the accused. About a visit of Dr. Löwenherz in Eichmann's offices in Berlin, Kurfürstenstraße 116, 19th of December 1939. Among other things, it says here that Eichmann expressed appreciation for the achievements of the community on the assumption that the conditions will be kept, and promised that he will no longer carry out any deportations to Poland if that is kept.
Where is that?
Page 2.
The paragraph number, please.
It is on in paragraph.
Yes, it is the end of paragraph 4.
Yes, sir. End of paragraph 4. Now 5, it says in this connection, Hauptsturmführer Eichmann took over all the authority for Jewish immigration, and he permitted the separate authorities for immigration in Prague, Berlin, and Vienna separately. They are not subject one to the other. Vienna will be independent, and something will be finalized about this until the end of 1940. This was also the result of Dr. Löwenherz's work. Paragraph 7, he says that he had told Eichmann that as far as further immigration is concerned, this might affect the so-called protective prisoners in Buchenwald and Dachau, and he speaks about the complaints they have been hearing about reports of death cases, and there were horrible scenes in the community of bereaved families. And Löwenherz says that since the beginning of this agreement and until now, 335 people had been executed, and the Jewish cemetery in Vienna was burying these little urns with the ashes. And Eichmann says that he does not deal directly with concentration camps, but asks Löwenherz to submit a written report until the 27th of February. And he also says that he will divide his time. He will be 2 weeks in Berlin every month, and the other 2 weeks will be divided between Vienna, Prague, and the Gouvernement General in Poland.
President of Court, this is on the in
Yes,
paragraph
this is
13.
Title 13.
T798.
Now 1140, also a memorandum drawn up by Dr. Löwenherz about an interview he had with Eichmann on the 26th of January 1940. I draw attention to paragraph 5. The community of Merish Ostrau, Moravska Ostrava, has informed us that a camp is being set up at Misko. They had to pay 300,000 Reichsmark, and Löwenherz had the duty of applying to this Moravska Ostrava community and asking them to collect this money for that purpose.
T799.
Eventually, now in paragraph 7, another question. Isn't it the case that I'm sorry, I want to correct this. What will happen to the Jews who were taken to Poland? Can they return to Vienna? Now, document 1141.
A memorandum in regard to a meeting which took place in Eichmann's office in Berlin. Again, the subject is the release from arrest of the community council workers, the Jewish workers, who are still under arrest in the Buchenwald concentration camp. This is in paragraph 5. Eichmann demands that a request for their release be handed to his office in Berlin. And it is interesting to note, paragraph 7, Löwenherz says, I requested the release of Rabbi Frankfurter from the Buchenwald camp. He is under arrest only because of the name Frankfurter, but he has no connection with the assassination. Eichmann instructed him to submit to him through the Central Office for Immigration an application in the name of Rabbi Frankfurter. T800. I come now to 1142. A memorandum in regard to a conversation held between Löwenherz and Brunner in the Central Office for Immigration in Vienna. Brunner reports what he heard on the telephone from Eichmann in regard to the future return of 152 people out of the Umsiedlungsgebiet from Poland.
Exhibit T801.
1143. Again, a meeting, Löwenherz and Eichmann in Berlin from the 3rd of July 40. Here, Löwenherz is instructed within 4 weeks to submit to Eichmann statistics of Jews in Austria, their institutions, and so on. the financial matters, and Dr. Levenhardt is called upon to present himself on the 4th of July before noon, and also the urgent release of certain people from the concentration camps. Eichmann says this was not possible at the time, and this applies also in regard to a further request to release young people. It is interesting to note what has been said in paragraph 4. Eichmann says that emigration should be carried on through the Far East, and it is estimated that after the war a plan should be found to find a solution of 4 million Jews in other parts. And Eichmann also asked if there were plans for these European countries and requests the centralizing of all information. We now know what this meant. During these months he was actually dealing with a plan of the famous Madagascar plan. T-802. I come now to a memorandum 1144. I shall not dwell on the contents of this document. This is a meeting with Bruder held on the 26th of June 1940, and interesting only because there is also something attached, and this comes to prove how these memos were sent on to the Jewish Immigration Office. In covering letter, 2 appendixes are mentioned.
T-803.
The court will please note that the letter is really a covering letter to the memorandum, and on the very same day when this conversation was held. Both dates are 26/6/40. 1145. A letter from Levenherz to the Central Office for Jewish Immigration of the 4th of July 1940. He says that in regard to the visit of the head of the Jewish community, Dr. Levenherz, at Eichmann's office, the head office for the security, in 26th of June 40, he wishes to call Brunner's attention. The special man authorized for these affairs, Eichmann, must be given this memorandum, and his opinion must be requested immediately.
T-804.
I now come to our document number 1146, a memorandum of the 15th of July 40, signed by Dr. Benjamin Murmelstein of the Jewish community, a meeting with Brunner of the 13th of July. Brunner demands that in future these reports should be sent on without covering letters. And this is explained by the previous document.
I did not understand.
Up to that date, it seems that it was customary to send memorandums with covering letters. I take it that Brunner requests the memorandums without any covering letter.
I see.
I come now.
It's T-805.
I come now to document number 126. a letter by the accused sent to Rademacher of the 13th of May 41, and the subject recommendations to Jewish immigrants towards the Far East. These things are being submitted to prove to this court that Eichmann, in spite of his being transferred to Berlin, still holds the reins in Vienna and in other territories, not as was the case with other Gestapo officers. To our document 548.
This was T806.
The document was presented to the accused and was marked T37 brackets 165. And to the document which will follow, the accused comments on pages 2083 of his statement. The correspondence is in regard to a man by the name of Emil Fleischmann, an academician, and his address is given in this document. It is reported that by accident news reached the German authorities about applications submitted to the Minister of Culture in Afghanistan in order to find employment for the man and his immigration from Vienna to Afghanistan. Now we shall come to document number.
It's T807.
549, where Eichmann replies to the Foreign Office, 28 February 41. He already saw this, T37 126 in brackets. Eichmann informs the Foreign Office that with reference to their letter of the 18th February 41, he begs to inform, I have instructed the Central Office for Immigration in Vienna that Salzmann and Kohlmann, the Jews mentioned in the report of the German embassy in Afghanistan, will be deported with the deportation from Vienna on the coming transport, and thus the matter was settled.
ST808.
Now, we have made an effort to locate this man, Emil Salzmann. We have referred to the Austrian authorities, the Jewish community in Vienna in October 1940. And we see that in the document 1240, we learn what happened to this Jew Salzmann. These documents are proof in regard to the deportation of Fleischmann to the east. And thus it is recorded in the registry offices in Vienna.
This is T809. I'm passing now to document 1147. This is a memorandum of Dr. Löwenherz on his talks with Brunner and Ebner in Vienna. The court will remember that Ebner was working in the Gestapo. Ebner was head of the Gestapo. They spoke about the expulsion of tens of thousands of Jews from Vienna to the east. And it was said that part of the Jews should be transferred to the territory of the military governor, and that in every transport there should be about 1,000 people. Then also the question was to single out the Jews who were to be sent, and this was incumbent upon the Zentralstelle für Judenauswanderung. Then there were specific instructions with regard to the implementation of the transports plan, and also the question of the sale of Jewish property, which is to be used to cover the costs of their immigration. This is what Löwenherz writes. And later on, it is pointed out in paragraph 9 that the Jews are not allowed to leave Vienna without a special permit of the Central Office of Jewish Immigration.
T810.
Now I'm passing to document 1634. This is a letter dealing with the evacuation of Jews from Vienna and they're being sent to general government. Also, this is again the problem that the concentration of these problems was still left to the discretion of the office for before. It was signed by Eichmann, and he sent the memorandum to Gestapo Central Office in Potsdam.
T811.
And now I'm coming to document 1148. Again, a memorandum submitted by Löwenherz to Brunner on the 11th of May 1941. Brunner again refers to the contribution with regard to the transfer of part of the population to the general government, and he was expecting instructions from Obersturmführer Eichmann.
T812.
1149. A memorandum on the talk between Brunner and Löwenherz on the 11th of May 1941, the concentration of Viennese Jews in special regions. This is, as a matter of fact, an effort which was very close to the idea of the opening of a ghetto, because the memorandum deals with the setting up of special regions in the districts 1, 2, 3.
The last.
Yes, this is the last.
Document. This is T813.
1150. Dr. Löwenherz and Dr. Epstein from the Reichsvereinigung are invited to appear before Günther on the 18th of September 1941. And this is what they were told in connection with the promulgation of the police regulations with regard to the yellow badge. The following is brought to your notice. This compulsory wearing of the badge will be introduced as from the 17th of September in Berlin, a day later in Vienna. And there will be a special marking for each man up to, and these badges are to be introduced forthwith, and therefore we say in advance that there will be no exemptions nor any special cases with regard to the order according to which those badges have to be worn.
814.
This is the first time that Berlin and Vienna are treated on an equal footing so far as the Jewish problem is concerned. 1515. An encounter with Brunner, the evacuation of capitals which are exposed to air raids. These Jews are sent this time to the ghetto lodge. The last transport was to be sent on the 3rd of October 1941 and was to affect 5,000 Jews. Later on, it was pointed out that the Jews are to sign a power of attorney, exactly the same declaration which was used before in connection with other transports. This power of attorney was to be aimed at transferring the property of the Jews to the Central Immigration Office.
Have you many more documents regarding the chapter about Austria? More than 10, Your Honors. But can we stop now?
Yes, we can stop at any stage here.
All right, we shall stop now. There is no afternoon session. I wish to inform that on Friday we shall begin at 8:30 and conclude the session earlier than usual. So the coming session is tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
You can't understand.